Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are strapping in for, well, a really high-stakes look at one of the most explosive, nerve-wracking, and genuinely historic games in esports history.
That's right.
Game 5 of the 2025 League of Legends World Championship Finals. We're diving deep into a kind of forensic play-by-play of that final showdown between T1 and KT. A series that went all the way.
Yeah, it's hard to really overstate the pressure cooker that was Game 5 and, the reward. Even bigger. Yeah. Our sources, they really dig into every single decision, every tiny play in this final game, the one that decided it all.
The 2025 World Champion.
Exactly. So our mission today, it's pretty clear. Cut through the, the hype, the noise, and analyze exactly how T1 managed to pull off that historic three-peat 3 world titles in a row.
And how Faker grabbed his, 6th World Championship trophy? It's just unreal.
6. Unbelievable.
The story that the sources paint, though, is fascinating because it wasn't just about pure dominance, was it? It was this constant clash of, human error and moments of pure genius.
Absolutely.
And while you normally look at the star players, the ones getting all the gold to land the final punch, the real hero here, the analysis suggests, was maybe the player least expected to carry, Guma, on Misfortune.
And that's the core paradox, isn't it? That's what we need to explore. The source material basically says Guma played the whole game with almost no resource priority. He was like the designated tool man.
Right, just there for utility follow-up damage.
Yeah, exactly. But then when everything was on the line, he just delivered this flawless performance, a masterclass, really. And it ended up mitigating some pretty big mistakes from his teammates who were under that high pressure.
It's the ultimate validation story, really. Adds such a great human layer to this epic clash. So today, we're going deep. We're looking at the blueprint. KT's draft errors that kind of set the stage for failure.
Oh, yeah.
T1's calculated risks in the early game, those sacrifices they made. And then finally, that incredible high-pressure execution in the late game that literally made history.
When analysts break down this game, the consensus is pretty strong. The strategic mistakes KT made during the draft, they basically tilted the whole thing in T1's favor before anyone even saw a minion.
Okay, so let's start there. The champion select phase. What were KT's big missteps in prioritization? How did they hand T1 such a comfortable path?
Well, the absolute #1 priority pick in the meta at that moment, according to, everyone high level, was Pantheon in the jungle.
Pantheon, okay. Why him specifically?
He was just labeled the best useful jungler, simple as that. You got global pressure with his ultimate, really strong early danks and great lockdown to just burst targets down. If you couldn't get Pantheon, the next best thing was usually like a tank utility jungler, Sejuani maybe, which KT did end up taking.
Okay, so KT had first pick opportunity on one of the sides. Why didn't they grab Pantheon? What was the thinking there?
They went for damage. They prioritized getting Ziggs for the mid lane or potentially bot lane APC. Now, Ziggs is strong, don't get me wrong. Great siege, big area control at the ult, lots of burn damage.
Right, wave clear, zone control.
Yeah, all that.
Yeah.
The analysts sort of understood it as maybe an anti-fire strategy, trying to build this overwhelming damage comp. But strategically, it was seen as a huge mistake.
But why? Why take a carry like Ziggs over the clear best utility jungler?
Because the moment they locked in Ziggs, it was like a collective sigh of relief from T1 fans, apparently. It meant T1 didn't have to worry about facing Ziggs themselves, and crucially, it meant Pantheon was available. T1 immediately scooped up Pantheon and then Galio.
Ah, the classic combo.
Yeah, the sources called that Panth-Galio core the key to a really stable composition for T1. So by giving up Pantheon, KT sacrificed that early game tempo he brings, and by locking Ziggs, they basically showed their hand. T1 knew exactly what KT wanted to do and could build to counter it.
Okay, so missing Pantheon was bad. But the sources, they get really critical about KT's top lane choice. This is where it apparently went from bad to, disastrous.
Oh, the top lane critique is just brutal because it fundamentally undermined everything else they were trying to do. Everyone expected T1 to pick Camille top lane. She's the ultimate split pusher, great at diving and isolating a target.
Pex Tech ultimatum, yeah.
Exactly. So the smart counter, according to the analysis, should have been Jax. Jax does well in team fights. He can actually duel Camille in the side lane, and he scales up nicely.
Makes sense. But KT didn't pick Jax. They picked Yorick. Okay. And the source calls him
a trash champion. Straight up. in the original source, apparently. And the reason that critique is so harsh is Yorick offers basically nothing in a big 5v5 team fight, especially early and mid-game.
Right, he wants to split push with his maiden and ghouls.
Exactly. His whole identity is side lane pressure. But in a winner-take-all Game 5 against a T1 comp specifically designed to force 5v5s around Misfortune's ultimate, Yorick is just absent when the fight breaks out.
So not only did they skip the best jungler, they picked a top laner who guaranteed they'd be weaker in the fights that mattered most.
It's actually even worse than that. It compounded the problem because their mid laner was a marksman Tristana in this game, but could have been Ziggs too. These champs are already super vulnerable to Camille diving onto them with her ultimate.
Trapped in the cage.
Right. And T1 now has Pantheon and Galio to help Camille execute that dive. And KT's top laner, Yorick. He can't peel, he can't initiate effectively in that scenario, he can't protect his own backline. They basically drafted themselves into a corner, a strategic black hole, as you said.
Meanwhile, T1's draft sounds simple, almost elegant in his straightforwardness.
It really was. The sources describe it as a stable kind of four-square setup. Everything was built around enabling Misfortune's ultimate bullet time.
Making sure Gumla could just channel that massive damage.
Exactly. The plan was simple. Camille dives and locks down a key target with her ult. Galio provides the big engage or counter-engage and follow-up crowd control. And Misfortune just stands back and lets it rip, aiming to comfortably sweep the enemy team while they're disrupted. It didn't even need massive gold on MF early, just flawless execution under pressure. And that dynamic, well, that defined the whole game. So T1 knew right away they couldn't just sit back and farm. KT's whole composition with Ziggs and Tristana, it was all about scaling. If T1 let those two carries just, stack up, as the analysts put it,
then the late game gets really scary for T1.
Extremely, extremely terrifying. Yeah. So T1's game plan was immediately identified as this time war. They had to win early.
Meaning they had to force the pace, maybe give up some things to get gold onto their key players and stop KT from ever hitting that powerful late game point.
Precisely. And the first shots in that war fire straight at the top side of the map. The first big strategic trade-off came from Pantheon's aggression.
Okay, tell me about that first blood. Sounds like it set the tone.
Oh, it was textbook execution. Owner on Pantheon hits level 3 and just makes a beeline for top lane, for Yorick. And like we said, Yorick has zero mobility, no real escape.
No dash, no jump.
Nothing. He had to burn his flash just to survive the initial engage, but Pantheon still got the kill easily. First blood. And the source says this basically opened the top lane for Doran's Camille to just bully Yorick relentlessly from then on. Huge early gold for T1's main diver.
But that aggression must have cost something, right? Where was KT's jungler?
That's the trade-off. Because Pantheon showed himself topside so early and aggressively, T1 basically conceded the first dragon. KT's jungler just walked over, switched quadrants, and secured it without any contest.
So T1 made a conscious choice. Pressure Yorick, get Camille ahead, and give up the dragon.
Exactly. A cold, calculated risk. They decided that the permanent pressure on Yorick turning him into, free gold for Camille was worth more than that first early dragon. And it helped that KT's bot lane, Ziggs and Sawani, wasn't super explosive early on. T1's bot lane could just kind of survive without needing immediate jungle help. Pressure top for a minor objective bot. T1 took that deal.
Okay, so the time war is working up top, but the sources also mentioned that down mid, Faker and Galio was actually having a really rough time against BDD's Tristana. That must have been a bit worrying for T1.
Oh, definitely a point of concern. Faker's playing Galio, this tanky initiator, right? And he's just getting constantly poked and pressured by Tristana's range and aggression. There was this key moment where Tristana actually tower dives Galio. They trade kills, 1-for-1.
A trade sounds even, maybe?
You'd think so, but the analyst is really clear this was a bad trade for Faker and for T1.
Why? Why is that? It kills a kill now.
It's about the champions and the resources lost. Galio is utility. His gold value isn't as directly tied to carry potential as Tristana, who needs gold for damage items to pop off late game. Plus, during that dive sequence, Faker lost crucial CS, specifically 3 caster minions, the backline ones.
Ah, the valuable ones for gold and XP.
Exactly. Yeah. So Tristana gets the kill gold and maintains lane pressure, and Faker loses gold and XP. He falls further behind on the tank stats he needs. So yeah, that 1-for-1 trade, definitely a net loss for T1 in the mid lane battle.
Okay, so winning on the flank, losing slightly in the center, but that top lane pressure just kept paying dividends, didn't it? The whole Yorick ATM phase.
Oh yeah. Camille and Pantheon just saw Yorick as free money walking around the top lane. By the time we're heading towards the mid game, Yorick is completely starved. The analyst points out he's building these, quote, trash items, like an unstacked terror, an incomplete Trinity force. He's just so far behind.
And they just kept diving him.
Over and over, he gets caught again, no flash. Result, Camille gets her second kill, Pantheon gets his second kill. The analyst basically says at this point, it almost doesn't matter how well Ziggs or Tristana farm. T1's main damage threats, their divers, Camille and Pantheon, are already miles ahead. That blueprint for disaster KT drafted, it was playing out perfectly for T1. They fed their own win condition. Right, so T1 built up this pretty significant gold lead, mostly off the back of farming Yorick and getting Camille super strong. But, the mid-game, it wasn't smooth sailing. It got chaotic. T1 started forcing plays, maybe a bit too much, and that aggression started costing them.
Okay, like the Herald fight around 14 minutes. It sounds like T1 maybe got a bit kill-hungry instead of playing the map.
That's exactly how the source frames it. It was a real momentum wobble. There's a skirmish, and Guma on Misfortune actually makes a nice play, dodges Sawani's ult with flash. But then, maybe feeling he needs to contribute, he uses his Q to finish off a kill, but gets caught out and has to burn his own flash defensively shortly after. Losing flash on your utility carry, your tool man, isn't ideal.
Yeah, you want that available for the big team fights later.
Exactly. But the bigger error, the source argues, was T1's overall objective focus. Or lack thereof.
They didn't prioritize the Rift Herald itself.
Nope. Instead of securing the Herald, they sent Doran, on his fed Camille, back up top lane to gank Yorick again.
Seriously. Yorick again.
Yorick again. He had flash this time, but the Panthult plus Camille ult combo still got him. So, okay, they get another kill on Yorick. But Camille had to use her ultimate and her teleport to do it.
Big cooldowns gone for,
Right.
well, for Yorick.
Right, a flawed trade. Sacrificing major cooldowns and map pressure just for more gold on Camille. And while this is happening, KT just takes the Herald, the predictor, for free. The analyst was really critical here, saying T1 was over-prioritizing kills when they already had a lead, instead of securing objectives.
So even with a clear advantage, T1's making these risky plays, almost playing with fire. And that leads us to the Dragon fight around 17 minutes. This sounds like where KT actually clawed their way back in, a potential turning point.
It was a full-on T1 disaster, a meltdown. KT played it smart. They saw Camille was way up top after that Yorick gank and immediately started the Dragon. T1 tried to contest, but their coordination just completely fell apart.
What went wrong?
First, Misfortune's ultimate. Guma fired it way too early, or maybe just aimed it poorly. It didn't hit the key backline targets. Then Doran, maybe feeling that pressure of being the fed carry, makes this, let's call it ambitious flash ult engage onto the enemy team.
Trying to force the issue.
Trying way too hard. And crucially, Faker on Galio was too far behind, or maybe just delayed. He couldn't provide the immediate follow-up damage or CC that Camille needed after diving in like that.
So Camille, the big damage threat for T1, just gets isolated and blown up instantly.
Instantly. She dies first. The fight collapses for T1. They lose badly, give up a bunch of gold, and KT secures the Dragon. Just like that, KT's back in the game, and a chunk of T1's lead evaporates.
Yep, sure. In that specific moment, Camille diving in alone, it prompted this interesting what-if from the analyst about KT's draft train.
It really did. The analyst basically pauses and says, okay, imagine KT hadn't picked Yorick. Imagine they picked Jax, like they maybe should have.
How would that have changed things?
The argument was, if KT had Jax there instead of Yorick, Jax's job in that fight would have been to stick to Galio like glue, to stop Galio from ever using his ultimate to fly in and try to save Camille.
Ah, so Jax provides peel and disruption that Yorick just doesn't.
Exactly. Galio probably wouldn't have even gotten into the fight. Camille might have died even faster, but the point is, Jax would have offered some kind of useful presence in that team fight, unlike Yorick, who was probably off split pushing somewhere uselessly. It just hammered home how much that Yorick pick hurt KT strategically.
And yet, the irony, right after that disaster, Yorick, the trash champion, accidentally becomes KT's savior for a moment.
It's almost comical, isn't it? T1 tries to regain some tempo, push down the mid lane tower after losing the Dragon fight. Chaos ensues. Faker on Galio tries to make a play with his E, the Justice Punch, but he miscalculates and just smacks into a wall. Okay, that happens, but then, the crucial part, Camille tries to engage with her hook shot, her main gap, closer.
And hits Yorick's wall.
And slams right into Yorick's W, Dark Procession, that big spooky circle wall he summoned.
No way. So the champion, everyone agreed was useless in team fights, accidentally blocked T1's two most important engage tools, Galio's dash and Camille's hook.
Incredible, right? The useless champion puts up a wall that unintentionally stops T1 dead in their tracks, buying KT vital seconds to regroup and stabilize after T1 was trying to push their advantage. Pure accidental brilliance.
But T1 didn't just roll over after that bit of bad luck, did they? How did they snatch the momentum back again?
They pivoted immediately from chaotic fighting to smart map control and vision. This is where T1's experience really showed. They had deep wards placed in KT's jungle in the river, and they spotted KT's jungler, Sewanee, just casually farming a scuttle crab, while the rest of KT was recalling or resetting after that mid-lane defense.
Caught out of position.
Big time. And Guma, on Misfortune, sees this opportunity. He starts secretly wailing on the Rift Herald that KT had secured earlier, kind of like that famous solo Baron sneak from a few years back. KT just didn't see it coming.
And when KT finally did react,
it was pure panic, total disorganization. Nautilus and Sewanee just charge forward blindly into the river, but they have no vision because T1 had cleared it all and had pink wards everywhere.
Walking into the dark. Never good.
Never good. They get instantly jumped on and deleted. Then Keria on Leona flashes aggressively, forces Ziggs to burn his flash defensively. The whole KT formation just imploded. The analysts called it a disastrous command structure. The tanks dove in suicidally, leaving the carries, Tristana and Ziggs, totally exposed with no way to deal damage. Huge win for T1, and they were suddenly massively ahead again. Okay, so after that chaotic river fight goes T1's way, they get a huge gold swing, they secure Baron buff. Logically, you're thinking, okay, T1's got this now, just play it slow, play it safe.
Right, methodical closeout, squeeze them with the Baron power.
But this is where the human element, the sheer pressure of a World Finals Game 5, really comes into play. And it seemed to hit Doran on Camille the hardest.
The sources point to a couple of really critical moments where Doran seemed to, panic a bit. The first one was right after they got Baron.
Yeah, Doran's overextension, as the source puts it. He gets the Baron buff, and instead of grouping and pushing methodically, he uses a teleport onto a ward way behind enemy lines. Super aggressive flank.
Trying to make a hero play.
Trying way too hard, he overcommits near KT's tier 2 turret, forces a fight that just didn't need to happen, and drags a couple of his teammates in with him. The commentary at the time was apparently just screaming, like they could win by doing nothing, just push the lanes. It felt like a really high-risk, unforced error. Impatience, maybe. Nerves, definitely. Trying to end it right now.
It didn't stop there. The second mistake, during the dragon fight around 27 minutes, this one sounds like it could have genuinely lost them the championship. He was the most fed player on the map.
It was terrifying to watch if you were a T1 fan. Absolutely devastating potential throw. Doran, again, remember he doesn't have flash available now. He tries to force another engage near the dragon pit. He completely misjudges where Tristana's positioned.
Trap the right target.
Doesn't trap anyone important with his ultimate, dives in kind of awkwardly, and because he's the biggest threat, KT just instantly turns all their damage onto him. Focus, fired, deleted. First death in the fight, again.
Wow. So your main carry, your most fed player, is dead before the fight really even starts properly.
Exactly. This was the moment the analyst commentary apparently just lost it. Pure panic. Sounding the alarms, saying T1 was about to throw the whole championship away because of these repeated high-stakes mistakes from their main carry. The pressure to perform seemingly leading to these critical errors.
Okay, so this is it. This is the moment. Fed carry dead. Enemy team healthy, objective up for grabs. T1 should lose this fight, maybe lose the game. But this is where the script flips completely, isn't it? Enter the bot lane masterclass.
This is the pivot point of the entire game. The turnaround was just seismic, completely changed the narrative. While Doran is dead, T1's bot lane duo Guma on Misfortune and Keria on Leona just take over.
How did they do it?
It starts with Keria. Leona's ultimate solar flare, absolutely perfect placement. It catches both Tristana and Ziggs KT's entire damage backline. The source highlights that Ziggs actually had his flash up, but the Leona ult was placed so well he just got caught flat-footed. Immobilized.
Huge setup. And Guma, tool man.
Guma converts. Misfortune's ultimate, bullet time, just sweeps across KT's stunned backline. The sources emphasized this wasn't just chip damage, it was absolutely catastrophic damage onto those two immobile carries. The analysts literally called it a bot lane difference moment.
Wow.
And it wasn't over. Keria then dives onto Tristana, uses his Zanya's Hourglass, the defensive stasis item, perfectly to survive the initial burst coming back at him, keeping Tristana locked down just long enough. The contrast was incredible. Doran panicking, making forced plays, Guma and Keria executing with ice-cold precision.
So T1 wins the team fight.
Yeah.
4v5. With their main carry dead.
4 versus 5. They wipe KT, secure the dragon that Doran died trying to force, and immediately rotate and secure their second Baron buff off the back of it.
It perfectly highlights that paradox you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. Guma got the least resources all game, right? Pantheon ganked for Camille. Galio often played around Camille. Guma was just supposed to be utility. But he secures the win with that one perfectly executed ultimate, completely covering for the mistakes made by the player who had all the resources poured into him. The analyst called it truly terrifying when the player with the fewest expectations delivers the biggest clutch play under the absolute maximum pressure.
Okay, so after that incredible bot lane turnaround, T1 have Baron again, they have the Dragon's soul pressure stacking up, and the gold lead must have been massive by this point.
Yeah, the sources estimate it was around 11,000 gold, plus the Elder Dragon souls coming up. That's usually game over territory. The path to victory was clear.
But even then, the pressure didn't completely disappear, did it? We see one last little wobble from Doran.
It seems so. Around 31 minutes, there's this final moment of maybe extreme impatience. Doran's final flub, as the source calls it.
What did he do this time?
Camille just dives straight into the enemy base, but there's no minion wave with him. He's just going in. It shows this almost desperate need to end the game now, rather than just patiently waiting for the Baron minions and the Elder Dragon to guarantee the win.
Yeah, the commentator apparently suggested just standing still would have been better.
Exactly. Let the buffs do the work. It just speaks volumes about that human stress, you know? Even with an insurmountable lead, the instinct can be to force the finish line instead of walking across it.
But despite that little bit of overeagerness, the game was realistically too far gone for KT by then, wasn't it? They had to try one last desperate fight.
They had no choice. Their backs were against the wall. Elder Dragon was spawning. They had to contest it, had to try and find one miracle team fight to somehow salvage the series.
And this is where Guma really puts the final nail in the coffin, showing the true power of that misfortune pick once she finally had items.
Oh, yeah. This is the payoff for T1's draft and Guma's steady performance. He's level 18 now, full build misfortune. The damage output is just insane.
Any specific examples?
The analyst points out this moment where Sejuani, KT's full tank jungler, is at full health. Guma hits her with a Q bounce and maybe an auto attack or two, and Sejuani just instantly drops to like 70% health.
From full health.
Take from full health, just chunked. It forces Sejuani to burn her flash defensively, basically taking KT's main frontline engage out of the fight immediately. Then Keria lands one last perfect Leona ultimate onto Justana, locking down KT's only remaining real damage threat. It was just complete domination through superior scaling, team fight execution, and that massive gold lead.
And with that, T1 closes out the game. They secure the victory, confirming the three-peat. 3 consecutive world championships. It just sounds legendary.
It really is history, cemented right there. That victory doesn't just secure the three-peat, which is already unprecedented in the modern era, but it gives Faker his 6th world championship trophy. 6?
Just staggering.
Yeah, the source calls it an achievement that's unprecedented and possibly never to be repeated, especially when you consider how messy, how volatile, how mistake-prone that specific Game 5 actually was. It wasn't a clean sweep. It was a hard-fought, chaotic win. #tag outro.
So when we look back at this incredible game, all the chaos, the history made, what's the big takeaway? What does it really tell us about competition at the absolute highest level?
Well, I think beyond just the amazing plays, this game was such a perfect case study in how pressure and resource distribution work together, or sometimes against each other, in these super high-stakes moments.
Right. T1 didn't just win because their main carry popped off consistently.
Not at all. In fact, their main carry, Doran, struggled significantly under the pressure, making repeated critical errors. T1 won because their low-resource player, Guma, stepped up with this unexpected, completely flawless execution right when it mattered most. His performance essentially bailed out the mistakes of his high-resource teammate.
It totally flips the script on the idea of a carry, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The biggest contribution, the play that arguably won them the championship, came from the player designated as the tool, the utility piece.
Exactly. It just shows the immense power of pure execution and utility over just having the most gold, especially when the pressure is that intense, making the right play at the right time.
And that idea, the low-pressure player delivering while the high-pressure one cracks, it leads to a really interesting final thought, especially considering the source mentioned this T1 achievement might never be repeated.
Yeah, where do you go from here?
Well, we saw clearly with Doran that inherent human tendency to make mistakes under extreme pressure, those panic dives, the impatience, Even the best players in the world can make these chaotic, emotionally driven errors in Game 5.
It's only natural, really.
So, it makes you wonder, if human error is almost baked into these high-stakes moments, how long until we see things like AI analysts and strategists become, well, essential? Not just for helping with the draft, but for actually guiding in-game decisions with cold, hard logic. Could AI achieve that flawless consistency that humans seemingly struggle with under pressure?
That's a fascinating, maybe slightly chilling thought. Could a team guided by AI execute a perfect 5-game World Finals series with zero panic, zero unforced errors? Is that kind of flawless performance even possible with only human minds and human emotions running the show? Something for you to think about.